What would you do if your new home turned out to be a former funeral parlor haunted by the spirits of the departed? Just imagine it for a moment. You're on the hunt for a new place to call home, and you stumble upon a charming old house in Connecticut. It's perfect for your family. Spacious, affordable, and with a certain character that you can't resist. There's only one problem. It used to be a funeral parlor. This isn't a hypothetical scenario for one family. This was the chilling reality for the Snedekers. In the late 80s, the Snedeker family moved from upstate New York to Connecticut, lured by the charm of their new home, unbeknownst to the dark, chilling history it held. It wasn't long before the family began experiencing strange occurrences. The air was filled with a putrid smell that seemed to seep from the walls. Strange sounds echoed through the halls at night, and items would inexplicably move or disappear, only to reappear in the most unlikely places. But the Snedekers were a rational bunch, dismissing these oddities as the quirks of living in an old house. However, as time passed, the events escalated from eerie to downright terrifying. They discovered that their home, their sanctuary, was a former funeral parlor, and not just any funeral parlor. It all began with a hopeful move to Connecticut. The Snedeker family, like many others, was searching for a fresh start. Their reasons for moving were not unlike the motivations of many families. The Snedekers sought better job opportunities, a peaceful place to raise their kids, and a new chapter in their lives. Their financial circumstances, however, had been less than ideal. They had been grappling with the economic hardships that had left them teetering on the edge of despair. Struggling to make ends meet, their hope was pinned on this new move, this new state that promised a better future. The house they found in Connecticut seemed to be an answer to their prayers. It was spacious, affordable, and nestled in a serene neighborhood. It was, as they thought, the perfect place to start anew. The family was overjoyed, swept up in a wave of optimism. Little did they know that their dream home held a chilling secret. The moment of revelation came like a bolt from the blue. Their perfect house, the beacon of their new beginning, had a dark past. It was a former funeral parlor. Imagine the shock, the disbelief, the chill running down their spines as they discovered the previous life of their new home. The rooms where their kids played and laughed were once filled with the somber silence of mourning, the air heavy with the sorrow of loss. Their sanctuary, their refuge, was a place where bodies were embalmed, where the dead were prepared for their final journey. The realization must have been as bone-chilling as a winter's night, yet they decided to stay, to face their fears, to make this house a home. The Snedekers, undeterred by the house's eerie past, chose to move forward. They decided to embrace their new life, to confront the shadows of the house's history. They were determined to carve out a happy life in their new home. But little did they know, their resolve was about to be tested. And that's when the strange occurrences began. The dead do not always rest in peace, a chilling truth that the Snedeker family would soon come to know all too well. Their first encounters with the supernatural were subtle, almost dismissible. It started with strange, inexplicable sounds. A faint whisper in the dead of night, the soft clinking of chains where there were none, footsteps echoing in empty rooms. These sounds filled the air, seeping into the silence, transforming their new home into a symphony of the unexplainable. But it was not just sounds that plagued the family. Objects began to move on their own, defying the laws of physics. A chair sliding across the room, a book falling off a shelf, a door slamming shut with no wind to blame. Invisible hands seemed to touch, push, and pull, leaving the family in a constant state of unease. Then came the apparitions. These were no ordinary ghosts, but terrifying specters that took pleasure in their fear. They appeared at the corner of their eyes, in mirrors, and in the darkest corners of the house. The outlines of men, women, even children, all clad in a ghastly aura of dread. Their faces distorted, their eyes empty, their presence chilling to the bone. Every encounter left the family more terrified than the last. Sleep became a luxury as the nights were filled with dread. The children would wake up screaming, their dreams invaded by the specters. The parents, too, were not spared, their sanity slowly chipping away with each encounter. The supernatural phenomena intensified. each day becoming a living nightmare. It was as if the house itself was alive, breathing, watching, and feeding off their fear. The Snedekers could no longer deny the reality of their situation. This was not simply a case of an old, creaky house. This was something far more sinister. The Snedekers soon realized they were not alone in the house. A realization that sent chills down their spine. A truth that would change their lives forever. Little did they know, the worst was yet to come. The hauntings grew in intensity, terrifying the family. As the days turned into weeks, the Snedeker family found themselves trapped in a chilling cycle of escalating supernatural phenomena. The once sporadic occurrences became a daily ordeal, each incident more horrifying than the last, pushing the boundaries of their deepest fears. The heart of the house, the kitchen, became a hotbed for paranormal activity. Pots and pans would clatter in the middle of the night with no one in sight. The chilling sound of a child's laughter echoed through the empty halls. The family was never alone. An unseen presence made itself known, its icy touch sending shivers down their spines. But it wasn't just the invisible that haunted them. The family reported witnessing disquieting apparitions. Phantom figures would appear and disappear in the blink of an eye. The sight of a spectral man with high cheekbones and jet-black eyes standing at the foot of their beds became a terrifyingly familiar sight. The children, unfortunately, were not spared from these hauntings. Their innocence was violated by the shadows that lurked in their rooms. Their dreams were invaded by nightmarish entities that turned their peaceful slumber into a battleground of terror. The youngest Snedeker, a mere child, spoke of a man with white hair and large hollow eyes that watched him as he slept. The most horrifying incidents, however, were the physical attacks. Family members reported being held down, unable to move, feeling an oppressive weight pressing onto their chests. The mother, Carmen Snedeker, recounted a terrifying incident where she felt an unseen entity violating her. These were not mere hauntings. They were violent assaults from an unseen world. Fear, anxiety, and desperation hung heavy in the air. The Snedeker family was trapped in a relentless cycle of terror. Each day was a test of their sanity, each night a descent into their worst nightmares. The once safe haven that was their home had become a haunting ground. The Snedekers were living in a nightmare, with no escape in sight. Desperate for help, the Snedekers reached out to paranormal investigators. It was clear to the family that they were dealing with something beyond their control. Something that was not of this world. They were living a real-life nightmare, and their only hope was to find someone who could understand, someone who could help. The Snedeker search led them to the renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens were no strangers to the supernatural. They had investigated thousands of hauntings, each one unique, each one terrifying in its own right. But the Snedekers' case, they would soon discover, was unlike any they'd encountered before. With a heavy sense of dread, the Snedekers invited the Warrens into their haunted home. They walked them through the house, recounting their terrifying experiences, their encounters with the unseen. The air was thick with tension and fear, but there was also a glimmer of hope. The Snedekers believed that if anyone could help them, it was the Warrens. Ed and Lorraine listened intently, their years of experience guiding them, their intuition alert to the unseen energies swirling around the house. They performed an initial investigation, utilizing their specialized equipment to detect any signs of paranormal activity. The results were as chilling as the cold spots that seemed to appear out of nowhere in the house. The Warrens corroborated the Snedekers' experiences. They confirmed the presence of multiple spirits, each one feeding off the fear and despair within the house. It was a house of nightmares, a house of despair, a house that was trapped in a cycle of terror. It was clear to the Warrens that this was not just a haunting, it was an infestation. The Warrens offered the Snedekers a glimmer of hope in their darkest hour. They promised to do everything in their power to cleanse the house, to rid it of the malevolent spirits that had taken hold. But the path to peace was fraught with danger, and the Snedekers would have to brace themselves for the battle to come. The Warrens confirmed the Snedekers' worst fears. They were living in a house of horrors. The only option left was an exorcism. The Snedekers had reached their breaking point. The hauntings had escalated beyond their control, and they were left with no other choice. The decision to perform an exorcism wasn't made lightly. The family knew the implications, but they were desperate for a reprieve. They sought out a reputable priest, one schooled in the ancient rites of exorcism. The priest, a seasoned warrior in spiritual warfare, was their last hope. The process of an exorcism is a complex one. It's not like what you see in the movies. It's a ritual that demands absolute faith, courage, and most importantly, strength. The priest, armed with his faith, began the rite. He called upon the Holy Spirit, his voice echoing through the haunted house. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air heavy with anticipation. As the priest continued the ritual, the family stood by, holding each other close, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. The house seemed to respond to the priest's words, the air shimmering with an unseen energy. There were signs of resistance, but the priest was unyielding. He continued, his voice rising in a crescendo of prayer and command. And then, as quickly as it began, it was over. The house fell silent. The oppressive energy that had filled every room seemed to dissipate. The family looked around, their faces etched with a cautious relief. For the first time in months, they could breathe. But the relief was temporary. The exorcism had provided a brief respite, but it wasn't the end. The haunting didn't stop, it just paused. The family would soon realize that they were still trapped in their nightmare. The exorcism had stirred the entity, not banished it. The battles were far from over. The exorcism brought some relief, but the haunting was far from over. The Snedekers were still living in a haunted house, and the nightmare was far from over. The fight against the unseen was just beginning. Even after the exorcism, the Snedekers' ordeal wasn't over. The eerie whispers of the unseen didn't cease, the chilling touch of the invisible didn't fade. The haunting, it seemed, had dug its claws deeper into the fabric of their reality. But as the Snedeker family continued to report these hair-raising occurrences, the court of public opinion began to turn. Skepticism started to creep in, like a fog rolling over a desolate graveyard. The media, once sympathetic, started questioning the validity of their claims. One of the most common criticisms was the lack of concrete evidence. Many argued that without tangible proof, the Snedekers' story was nothing more than an elaborate hoax. "Where are the photographs?" they asked. "Where are the EVP recordings?" But the Snedekers, they had nothing more than their lived experiences to offer. Another major point of contention was the involvement of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators. Critics pointed out that the Warrens had a history of involvement in cases that later turned out to be less than credible. The Snedekers' haunting, they argued, was just another instance of the Warrens' sensationalism. And then there were those who questioned the Snedekers' motives. Was this all a ploy for money and fame, they asked. After all, their story had become a best-selling book and a Hollywood movie. But the Snedekers, they always vehemently denied these accusations. As the skepticism grew, so did the Snedekers' resolve. They stood their ground, weathering the storm of doubt and disbelief. They insisted that their experiences were real, that the haunting was not a figment of their imagination. They maintained that they lived through a nightmare in Connecticut, a nightmare that defied explanation, a nightmare that lingered long after the exorcism. Despite the skepticism, the Snedekers maintained their haunting was real. And so the debate continues, suspended between belief and disbelief, between the seen and the unseen, between the natural and the supernatural. What became of the Snedekers after their terrifying experience? Today, the Snedekers have moved far from the horrors of the haunted Connecticut house, seeking solace in the peaceful corners of the United States. Yet the echoes of the past continue to cast a long shadow over their lives. The terrifying memories etched in their minds have never faded away, and their lives have been irrevocably shaped by the haunting. Carmen Snedeker, the matriarch of the family, has become an advocate for those who've undergone similar paranormal experiences. She uses her own chilling encounter as a catalyst to offer support and understanding to others who feel unheard. Her belief in the haunting, despite the skeptics and naysayers, remains firm. She stands by her story, stating that the events they lived through were all too real. Her husband, Al, has found solace in the mundane. the routine. The haunting has urged him to embrace normalcy, to seek comfort in the everyday. He's a firm believer in the power of the ordinary to heal the extraordinary wounds inflicted by the paranormal. The Snedeker children, now adults, have taken varied paths. Some have chosen to stay away from the limelight, their lives a testament to their desire to move on. Others, however, have embraced their past. They've used their experiences to shape their understanding of the world, to question the boundaries of reality. The family's shared ordeal has strengthened their bond. Their experience became a part of their identity, a shared memory that binds them together. The Snedekers remain a close-knit family, their belief in their haunting experience undiminished by time or skepticism. Despite the skepticism and controversy that surrounds their story, the Snedekers stand by their experience. They believe in what they lived through, and they continue to share their story, hoping to shed light on the unexplored corners of reality. The Snedeker family haunting remains one of the most controversial and chilling cases in paranormal history. So, what have we learned from the Snedeker family haunting? The Snedeker family's chilling ordeal began with their move to Connecticut, a decision guided by hope and necessity. Little did they know that their dream of a fresh start would take a horrifying turn. Their new home, a former funeral parlor, was tainted by a history of darkness that would soon make itself known. The family's first encounters with the supernatural were subtle, yet unsettling. Strange noises, shifting shadows, and an inexplicable chill set the stage for the terror that was to come. As the hauntings escalated, the family was pushed to the brink, their lives invaded by unseen forces that sought to harm and terrorize. Desperate for help, the Snedekers reached out to renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The couple's investigation into the haunting culminated in an exorcism, a dramatic attempt to cleanse the home of its malevolent spirits. The Warrens' involvement brought the Snedekers' plight into the public eye, sparking debate and controversy that continues to this day. The aftermath of the haunting left the Snedekers forever changed. Their ordeal has been met with skepticism, with critics questioning the veracity of their claims. Despite this, the family stands by their story, their experiences forever etched into their lives. Today, the Snedekers continue to grapple with the legacy of their haunting. Their terrifying tale has been immortalized in books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood movie. The haunting's continued relevance is a testament to its enduring power to captivate and terrify. In the end, the Snedeker family haunting serves as a stark reminder of the thin line that separates the known from the unknown, the natural from the supernatural. It's a chilling tale of a family's struggle against unseen forces, a narrative that continues to resonate with those who dare to delve into the darkness. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the Snedeker family haunting is a chilling tale that continues to captivate and terrify. In the end, the truth about the Snedeker family haunting may forever remain a mystery. The echoes of their chilling account continue to reverberate in the dark corners of our collective unconscious, a stark reminder of the mysteries that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding. This haunting, this nightmare in Connecticut, has left an indelible mark not just on the Snedeker family, but on the landscape of the paranormal community as a whole. The reverberations of this case are felt far and wide. It has sparked countless debates, inspired numerous investigations, and has even been the subject of Hollywood adaptations. The fascination with the Snedeker family haunting endures, and for good reason. It presents us with a tantalizing mystery, a horror story that blurs the lines between reality and the supernatural, between the explainable and the inexplicable. The Snedeker family haunting is a chilling testament to the power of the unknown. It reminds us of the fear that can grip us when we are confronted with something beyond our understanding. It shows us the strength that can be found in unity, in standing together in the face of something inexplicably terrifying. But perhaps most importantly, it pushes us to question, to explore, to seek out the truth that lies in the shadows. We can't definitively say what happened in that house in Connecticut. We can't say for sure whether it was a haunting, a psychological phenomenon, or something else entirely. But we can say this: the Snedeker family haunting has become a part of our cultural fabric, a chilling tale that continues to captivate us, to frighten us, and to make us question what we think we know about the world around us. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey into the unknown. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, and, as always, keep an open mind. Have you experienced any encounters like the Snedeker family? If so, tell us about it in the comments section.